It's now time for Energy Insights, where you get an inside view and local perspective of all the oil and gas progress going on in the Mid-Ohio Valley. This program is brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association and can be heard every Saturday at 9 a.m. on WMOA AM 1490, FM 101.3, JAWS Country FM 100.9, and ESPN Radio AM 630 and FM 92.9. Here's Johnny Wharf, your local host.
Energy Insights on a Saturday morning, and we're pleased to be joined by Matthew Hammond, formerly president of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association and now the executive director with the Empowerment Alliance. And those couple of words say a lot, Matthew, so maybe we'll jump right in since there's much to do and little time on our show, but talk a little bit about the Empowerment Alliance.
Yeah, hey, Johnny, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity once again to be on your show. The Empowerment Alliance is pretty much a grassroots education advocacy organization that wants Americans to think about American-made, American-produced, affordable, clean energy, and we lead a lot with natural gas from that standpoint. A lot of things have changed over the last couple years, right? That we're at a point to where energy policy has made a significant impact on inflation, on the cost of food, on the price of the pump, right? So a lot of things have changed for Americans over the last couple of years, and at the end of the day, we want people to realize that they have a say in what policy looks like.
You know, you're obviously very close to it, and just doing the show and meeting folks like you, I've become very close to it as well. And it seems so darn simple. You want to pound your fist on the table and say, you know, if we just used our own resources, think of the money we could save, think of the footprint we could clean up, think of, you know, how tough it is right now just to put gas in a tank, and because we rely so much on things outside of our control, meaning other countries.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go through a couple things, Johnny, if you let me. One, the petroleum reserve has been tapped into several times over the last year and a half and change. This administration has gone to Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus to ask them to increase oil production and exports into the United States. That's a policy that, frankly, just doesn't work.
Right.
Pipelines have been canceled. You look at the Keystone being the primary one that the president canceled on, I think it is first day of office.
Right.
The policies matter, right?
But are we ever, doesn't it always seem like one step forward, two steps back, just because, you know, you feel like you're moving forward, and then maybe there's that not even just into the top line administration, but different organization administration changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always a hard thing to navigate, right? You know, I think that, you know, if you look at different administrations coming in where we were over 2 years ago versus where we are today, I think it's a really hard thing to navigate. You know, I think we want, you know, between the president, the administration, Congress, to focus on pro-American, leaning with natural gas as the answer to the solution to the energy crisis that's going on in this country right now. I think those are all things that we're looking for.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. Matthew Hammond is our guest, executive director. The Empowerment Alliance is the organization. So give us some. I mean, you got to give us a little hope, right? We're always looking for it, but what is that? What can we reach for? It's the crystal ball thing, right?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, Johnny, I'd have a yacht.
That's right.
Well, here's the crystal ball. I think at the end of the day, what the Empowerment Alliance hopes to educate voters on, whether you're in Ohio, the Appalachian Basin, across the country, is that, you know, when you go to the ballot and you go to vote for somebody, you're thinking about the pro-energy candidate. You're thinking about, you know, there's so much that goes on into the energy sector, right? Whether you're talking about, you know, within the United States borders or globally, right? We want people to understand that as energy prices go up, your price of food goes up. I just went to the store today to buy ground beef, and it was astronomically high compared to what it used to be.
Sure.
It's just not, you know, energy drives the global marketplace. And when energy costs are reasonable for consumers, reasonable for the industry, everybody wins, right? So I think that's one thing that we want to encourage people to think about, is that when, you know, as we're coming up on election season and we're an education advocacy organization, American-made energy that at the end of the day are, you know, our energy independence, our energy security is critical to this country being successful.
And the empowerment part of it is that we all have a little piece of the action here, and we need to stand up and hit the right lever at the poll. If you know, I'm using old school term there, but I'd love to continue.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I'd love to continue this conversation. Our time is up on Energy Insights today, but we thank the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association for giving us a platform to educate folks out there. We thank Matthew Hammond as our guest, and we'll have more to hear from the Executive Director of the Empowerment Alliance in the future. Thank you, Matthew. Energy Insights on a Saturday morning, a chance to get a little smarter every Saturday morning about the oil and gas industry, and we're pleased again to be joined by Matthew Hammond, who is the Executive Director of the Empowerment Alliance, and talk a little bit again, kind of lay out maybe when this came about in terms of an organization or an advocacy organization, and then, you know, just the initiative or the vision going forward.
Yeah, Johnny, that's a great question. So T started about 2.5, 3 years ago, and I came on board as the executive director in January. So I'm still kind of relatively new, but not really relatively new. Been around long enough with the Empowerment Alliance, the industry, that I understand that everything that, you know, it takes to accomplish our goals and our mission. T is basically a grassroots organization that we want to empower everyday, average Joe American, you know, whether you live in Ohio, whether you live in California, New York, West Virginia, doesn't matter, that you understand what the ramifications are for energy security in this country. So that's a big part of what we do.
You use the acronym, and it's the first time I really thought about it, but the Empowerment Alliance, and you mentioned T. That's got a nice little spin to it, coming into what you're all about as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so we look at energy security as American security, and you go all the way back to the Boston Tea Party, which is kind of a big, you know, part of what we do and how we think about our everyday lives. I think that's really important for people to understand, that you do have control over what, you know, what you have to say and who takes office, whether you're at a county commissioner level, state legislature level, statewide, or congressional.
Yeah, and so, you know, to that point, and again, Matthew Hammond is the Executive Director of the Empowerment Alliance, our guest here on Energy Insights. But, you know, this is America. You hear these things, you know, like you think about what happens in other countries, and we do have the power to step up and make change and do things but we need to be obviously more educated. And I'm not so sure when you look out there that we're getting through to people, and I say we as an oil and gas industry partner, because there's just so many misconceptions out there, and sometimes they're driven harder than the truth.
Yeah, Johnny, I think you're spot on, and that's one thing that the Empowerment Alliance T we want to work on. That is one of our primary goals, right? To educate people, to help them understand that it's not just lights on, beer cold, air conditioning, whatever it might be. It is literally a movement that people struggle. 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. How much do you think energy costs play into that?
Right. So common sense.
It's significant.
Yeah. Energy movement. Do you feel that? I mean, you've obviously got some good partners, right? In terms of having to get out there and advocate for this. In terms of whether it's guys on the Hill or even at a local or state level, right?
Yeah, so we're all over the state right now. We're going to continue to be all over the state. That's a growing movement to build our coalition. The one thing I will say when you mention the Hill, Congressman Troy Balderson has introduced a resolution that recognizes natural gas as a green form of energy. And that's a big deal. The European Union did that probably like a month ago, I think.
Right.
That they said natural gas is a green form of energy. Well, Johnny, if the European Union can do it, why can't the U.S. government do it?
Yeah.
Why can't the state of Ohio do it? Why can't West Virginia do it? Why can't Pennsylvania do it? Why can't Texas do it?
You're going to have me squeeze you for another program because now I want to transition off of that a little bit. I love it, but we are out of time for this week. Matthew Hammond is our guest. He is with the Empowerment Alliance. T is the acronym. He's the executive director thereof. It's been so gracious with his time, and we'll hope he'll come back again with us next week to talk a little bit more. Energy Insights brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association.
04 p.m.
Energy Insights on a Saturday morning, and once again, Matthew Hammond is our guest. He is the executive director of the Empowerment Alliance and formerly the president of the Ohio Oil and Gas Association. And so really you've had your hands in this probably for a little while, maybe not with T as long, but it's been kind of your passion throughout, right?
Yeah, it has. It's kind of been a weird, well, not weird, but interesting pathway to where I am today, to where I work for an oil and gas producer. I ran all their public policy. I work for a law firm that, we represented the Statewide Trade Association, the Ohio Oil and Gas Association, and other companies. And then I found myself at the Empowerment Alliance, and I thought it was a really unique, interesting opportunity for myself.
What do you? Let's talk about what is difficult. And we share the same passion for. I lobby for the broadcasters, very different than, but in the same sense, you're still trying to get points across, to get bills on the Hill, whatever the case might be. But talk about what's worked, maybe, and then what you're struggling with most in terms of those 3-point issues or whatever the case might be as it relates to the industry.
Yeah, so here's one thing that I would point out. I think where the Empowerment Alliance can come into play, where the industry oftentimes struggles, and this is coming from my background in the industry, we need to tell a better story.
Right.
Right. So, we know that since 1970, all the way through today, or, that emissions have reduced drastically. While the economy has grown, while coal-fired power plants have reduced, natural gas-fired power plants have increased. Natural gas development has increased. And this whole idea that you can't pick, clean over affordable or clean over abundant. I don't think it goes, I actually think that they're the same thing.
Right, and studies, again, some that we know and some that get pushed under the covers, but studies are showing, air quality, water quality better. And then you mentioned, I think last week on our program, that as a resource, natural gas falls under green, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I think that we need to focus on, whether it's from a congressional level with Congressman Troy Balderson or what we want to do in the Ohio General Assembly. Why isn't natural gas green? Emissions are down, right?
Right.
CO2 down, methane down, everything because of natural gas development. So to me, I look at it as, I think we're doing a good thing for the environment. We're providing an affordable, abundant, reliable source of energy that is made in America. Not that, we're going to, China, for example, to say, well, you need to make X number of batteries for electric vehicles or all these solar panels, right?
Right.
That don't necessarily make sense for the U.S. economy or the environment.
Yeah, and even from a security, in terms of domestic energy as a security point as well. I mean, there's so many different avenues that we could go down, and it just makes good sense. I think I will speak for the industry to say that we're glad you're out there fighting for it and keep up the good work.
Johnny, and I will tell you, the Empowerment Alliance will be out there. We're going to be very active in the communities across the state, and we're looking forward to the opportunity to engage with people.
All right. Our job with Energy Insights is to make people a little smarter about the oil and gas industry. I think we've accomplished that threefold over 3 weeks with Matthew Hammond. He is the Executive Director of the Empowerment Alliance. Again, thanks for your time. Hope to see you out there around the corner sometime, sir.
All right, will do, Johnny. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Energy Insights, brought to you by the Southeastern Ohio Oil and Gas Association. Tune in every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on WMOA Local Radio, JAWS Country, and ESPN Radio, as Johnny Wharf brings you your local and inside perspectives going on in the oil and gas industry right here in the Mid-Ohio Valley.